John shows up, I think he can just join and then we'll just pull him into the conversation. But what's up, everybody? Welcome to another one of our Homestead from Scratch shows. I'm here with Logan tonight, and John may pop in with us in a little while. But it's been a little while since we got together on a stream, and I know you've been real busy, Logan, doing a bunch of different stuff, and uh, maybe we can take tonight and kind of catch up on what all you've been doing and thinking about, and moving into the new year here on some stuff that you want to roll into the new year.
Yeah, so got a lot of plans and stuff. Got a lot of stuff going on. As of right now, I know one of the things that I was talking with you about was the well over on the property, and whether or not we're going to go the well route. From just like the little bit of thinking about it that I've done, I'm leaning heavily towards the well. It's just a matter of figuring some stuff out. We've got our house that we've been building back in the woods that's off the beaten path a little ways, and somewhat of a type 1 error when it came to the thinking of how much a road's going to cost to put in back there. And because I've got a small road that I built with the tractor that's got tractor access going back, but getting a road back there, getting electricity back there, getting water back there, and not so much the electricity, because if we did go off grid completely and did the solar panels, it would. That really wouldn't be an issue. But the water factor of it's either we got to pay a bunch for pipe, or we got to pay to build a big road to go. But we want a road back there anyway. But got to pay a bunch to get that done, to get somebody back there where they can drill a well, or you drill a well on another part of the property and then you have to run all the pipe anyway. So we've been working on just getting a little cabin set up so we can just get over there closer and work on stuff and not have to do the whole driving thing, have more of a home base over there. Something just quick and cheaper, and going to look at future plans for that. Got a lot of stuff with the animals going on, future plans for how much meat we're going to raise this year, and trying to expand my handyman business and get a few more customers and some other stuff. So we got a far too busy year ahead of us, that's for sure.
Yeah. So the property that you're working on, that you're building like a unique kind of place there, aren't you? Like kind of an underground kind of house over there.
Yeah, so it's all the timbers themselves. The smallest timbers that's on the build is a 6x8. So everything's extremely large timbers. It's based after the Wafatis that Paul Wheaton is doing up in Montana, up in the Midwest, or not the Midwest, but the Northwest.
Yeah,
and he basically just does a wooden frame that has a membrane over it within an umbrella, and basically just to, because I can't really paint a visual, it's basically just a structure that's made of wood, but that is protected by an impermeable layer so that it can stay dry. Has really long eaves, kind of like how the Japanese do with their building techniques, just to keep water off of wood, because that's the Achilles heel of wood. If you want wood to rot, make sure it's got some moisture, and it'll rot on you.
Yeah.
So doing that, and then it is a huge undertaking, and it's been extremely difficult doing that. But it really had to do a lot with having the time when I had more of the money too, because
Yeah.
you get into a build and if you don't have the time, I was working my regular 9 to 5 at the time. And like I just was not able to get away from that enough to really do what I wanted to do. And so now that I've got more time, especially with conventional building, I'm 10 times faster with that than working with round wood and doing these large timber frame structures. So having to just switch directions and do something that we can kind of add on to as we go. But the main thing is just trying to get over there onto the property, and to where we can get a start and we can do more stuff and get more stuff ramped up on like the nursery and everything. That's a real big deal, that, and doing some more big homesteading projects. And like I said, really too much, but the getting a little bit of a home base over there is going to be the best option right now until we can get something else.
Yeah, that's been my issue too, is like if I wanted to really get more things done at the property that I have over there that we're working on together, I'd have to be there full time to actually really get more stuff done. So it makes a huge difference when you don't have to go drive to your property and do all that all the time. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, just getting home, from whatever, and having just an hour or two a day that you can do stuff, then you're already there. I mean, it's night and day difference. But the sawmill's over there too, and so really wanting to get that back up and running and milling more lumber. It's already paid for itself. I bought it back when it was a cheap buy. I didn't spend more than $3,000 on it.
What'd you get? Like one of those Wood Miser ones, or
Woodland Mills is the brand, and they're a Canadian company. 2 engineers founded the company. They're kind of younger guys, and they said, "Look, we need a sawmill that is basically that makes sense for an individual to buy." Because most of those larger sawmills that are computerized and everything, you need to kind of turn into a business really for it to ever to really make sense. But a little $3,000 mill, by the time heck, even if you're just cranking out 2x4s, by the time you've saved on all the farm buildings you would build with that, it pays for itself extremely fast. Which of course, I know there's a lot of stuff to factor in with labor and all that other stuff, but considering that we've got a 9-acre woodlot and I'm wanting to manage that, the sawmill, for one, even if I never sell a single board off of that sawmill, all of the coops and barns and everything else that'll come out of it will, make it pay for itself 10, 20 times over.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Having a sawmill is a huge gain for anything that you're trying to do building wise. And my apologies, man. I am like very worn out. We were outside most of the day, and it went from being kind of nice out into like raining and getting very cold. And I started to feel the energy gets sucked out of my body. So I'm a little bit on the edge of exhaustion right now.
That's no problem. I think we might too just think about ending the live here about I'm good with 30 to 45 minutes or something. And in the live, I know we're just kind of trying to catch up, and I think it was last week I couldn't make it, and then the week before that I think it was you weren't able to make it, and John ain't been able to make it this time, and so I think maybe by next Sunday we ought to all be on maybe, and have another good topic. But the plans for this year are trying to get that, and another thing is your property, trying to get something going there. I know we've talked about doing some permaculture demonstrations and doing some classes and events and stuff over there. And that's the thing that, to me, if you're wanting to do anything with specifically homesteading or just preparedness, the money, if you want to make any money, is in the education and in the entertainment of stuff. I mean, that's what people pay for.
I agree. Well, I mean, we'll see this year, I guess. You know, how good of an idea it really is if people want to get out and into nature, maybe unplug for a little bit and maybe learn some skills about how you could live off grid and how you could do permaculture stuff, and give it a go and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yesterday was awesome. Yesterday was really fun. Getting out to the cabin. I'm about to post some pictures on Twitter and pull them up. But we got out there, and at the end of the day, we cooked some burgers and got to survey the progress that we've made, and it was a good day.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty productive on the getting some repairs done and switcheroos and putting the railing up, and it was several little things that needed to be done, but we're pretty close. As we get our windows and the exterior door going, that little puppy will be dried in completely. It'll have all four walls. Everything will be ready. The only thing that'll be really lacking on it will be a lot of facade work and doing interior walls and stuff. Figuring out what we're going to do as far as wiring in some solar or something. And it's not going to have any plumbing run to it yet. I don't know if that's going to be something we look at later on, but just figuring out a heating and maybe a cooling solution, which really and truly, I think by the time that we get everything boxed in, and the way that thing has a vaulted ceiling, and we get some little fans in there or something to run off the solar, not to say that you would be like, oh, this is so nice when you're in there, sleeping or whatever, but it may be bearable enough that you could go in like May or June and sleep without any covers on.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what it ends up being like, but I'm gonna pull up a photo of what it's looking like right now, if my internet would work. But that's just one of the shots facing the woods that of the inside of the cabin right there. So that's what we were working on yesterday for the most part, was putting up this cattle panel system so that you don't fall off the edge of the porch area. So it's looking pretty good. And then for some reason my internet's really slow, so let's see if that pulls up there.
Oh yeah.
Cook some burgers over the fire there, and had a good time.
Some of John's beef, by the way.
Yep, some of John's spectacular beef. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you. Here's some of the solar project I was working on today. Let's see. This guy, it's like 17 kilowatts of panels that it'll have out there after we get all done with it. So,
yeah, the picture you showed me yesterday looked like it was only of one of the ground mounts, I think. Because I saw that have that dead gum. That's a lot of solar panels.
Oh, just one of the arrays, I guess.
I think so. I think cause when I saw that one, I said, "Wow, that's because that's what 24 panels up so far."
Yeah,
Looks
I think so. Yeah.
looks like something like that. Or well, no, that might be more than that. I can't tell.
So these are 10, so that's 20. This is 8, so it's 28 panels that are up there so far. And then there's another 8 that are going to go up there.
Oh yeah, them other two are 10 panels apiece. Oh yeah, and then you're gonna have 10. So you've got 10 panels on each array then. When it's done.
Yeah. He's going to order 4 more, so each array will be 10 panels, and then that'll be like about 17,000 watts worth of solar panels that'll be out there. So it's the biggest system I've helped with to this day so far. So it's a pretty big project. And then he had a mini excavator out there that he had rented, and we trenched a line going from the solar panels up to where the power is going to come into his house there. So we got all that done today.
Let me ask you this, which I know that's a huge array, but are you going to lose any of your charge going to the battery bank or any of your power with it being that far away from the house?
There is some loss due to resistance, but if you have the right size wire and if you have high enough voltage going through that wire, that you minimize your losses.
Okay.
So it just depends on the length of your run and how much voltage you're pushing out from the panels, really, and that you just uh, size your wire accordingly. But yeah, you do get resistive loss when you have a really far run. Um, this one I think is going to be probably close to 400 feet, maybe,
Yeah.
when it's all said and done. From the panels to the house where it's getting wired in.
Now, and this system's big enough that you can be like, leave all the TVs on, run the dryer, and cook on an electric stove, or is it still got its limitations on what you can do?
It will be wired into all of the into the everything on the main panel in his house. Now, if the grid goes down and he wants to power everything like he was using it on the grid, he will run out of his battery storage pretty quickly. So I don't think that he'll have as much like energy to sustain himself through like a prolonged power outage
Mhm.
on all of the power in his house. He has a big house. This is my buddy that I'm working with, actually, Tyler here. Um, yeah, he says this house is huge.
Yeah, it is a big house.
So yeah, I mean, like a standard house, like a smaller house, this would be way more. I mean, be plenty of power
Yeah.
for any like normal size house and your standard power consumption. Um, but yeah, this guy's got a big house. He's got a lot of area to heat and cool, and he's got a lot of different appliances and stuff like that. So probably not going to cover him and his power consumption, but it's going to be a backup, and it'll be there when the power goes out. He'll have some power that he can draw into, and not fully probably rely on all that in a grid down scenario. Just emergency backup stuff, basically. Um, so yeah, Tyler's saying if this was a normal house, it would be 100% off grid with this system.
Heck yeah. Oh crap! Yeah, that's Solar Tyler.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What's up, Tyler? I just
Yeah.
realized who it was, but that guy knows.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we've been working on some projects together, and we did one out in Virginia for a friend of mine that I met through uh, the Steemit platform, blogging on there, and he had come out to my property and helped me out, and then I went out there and helped him with this solar project. So, and then this was one of the guys that he had some solar panels that were in a company called Solar Edge came out and did some work for them, but they installed these panels with these things called load balancers on them, and the load balancers talk to the inverter, and if there's anything that goes wrong with them, then the entire inverter shuts down and doesn't create power. And then it was also like tied in such a way that if the grid went down, he wouldn't be able to produce power. So it wouldn't even act as a proper backup for him. So
So pretty
yeah.
much useless.
Well, and those load balancers fail. And so, yeah, DC optimizer is what they're called. But those failed, and it shuts the whole thing down, and you can't even use it. So,
Wow.
So yeah, he's wanted to do something different. Yeah. So that's where we came in and are setting him up with something that has some battery backup, and he can, when the grid goes down, he'll have something instead of being dead in the water.
Well, hey, with Tyler in the chat here, this will be the perfect time to ask this question. So if you're wanting to get into solar, and now I feel like I'm not an engineer, but I do have somewhat of an engineering mind. Like I like having all the details of everything. People ask me, how much would it cost to do this? And I'm like, how long is a piece of string? I get that. But then when it comes to solar, something that I'm pretty ignorant about, I'll ask those questions too. I'll be like, so like if I did this and did that, like how many solar panels do you think I'd need? And it's like, well, it all depends on this, that, and the other. But this question, I think, is a pretty open-ended question, and it's going to depend for a lot of people. But I think it can give like a solid answer to anybody who's looking into solar. Say I wanted to get into solar, and I'm wanting to power, like whether it's like a little cabin like we're building or a small house or whatever. How easy is it to just, when you set up a system with your panels, your charge controller and your batteries and all that stuff, you get it set up? How easy, if you just started out with something like super small, you started out with just a couple of panels, a battery, and like a charge controller, how easy is it to just add on to that stuff?
So if you want to go super simple, I think there's all these all-in-one systems now where it's like Anchor will sell them, Blue Eddy. There's like these Jackery little things. There's a bunch of these different, like, I guess they're called solar generators on the market.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to get like something that you could just unbox and plug into a set of panels that you're not going to exceed the, its input voltage on, that's something that somebody with like zero experience with solar could figure out by reading their manual and having some panels laying around and just a little bit of knowledge on, hooking those panels into your little solar generator, and you're off to the races. So that's one option. But let's see, Tyler's coming in. It could be as cheap as you want it to make it, but eventually you want more power and bigger components, inverter, etc.
Okay. So now what if I said like, and I mean this is all just a bunch of hypotheticals because I don't know exactly what we're gonna do yet. But like I was talking about our shipping container and putting a deck up there and putting just a line of solar panels up there to where they would also be accessible where I could get up there and clean them off and everything. They wouldn't be up on a roof. Say I wanted to start out and I said, hey, I want a 1 kilowatt system. Would it be benefit? But I said, like, I want a 1 kilowatt system now, but I'm probably going to want to add more batteries and do like a 4 to 6 kilowatt system later on. Would it be wise to get the charge controller and the inverter and everything to run the 6 kilowatts and only do the six or this 1 kilowatt of panels and maybe a couple of batteries or whatever it is, and then have it to where you can add on to that later? And I'm not talking about like later, like 10 years down the road when the panels have started to lose a lot of their life, but like the next year or whatever, you went 2 or 3 years and added on to it.
Yeah, that might be Tyler might be able to pipe up on this, but my opinion is that what I would do in that situation is I would oversize my charge controller and inverter, and then I would use that to expand my output over time by adding more storage to that, and then more, basically expand out to your capacity for that charge controller inverter. So say you just want to start off with a 1 kilowatt system, but you get one of these charge controller inverters that could take up to 6 kilowatts or whatever. And you would start off with that, and then whatever battery bank and how much storage you want to start off with in the beginning, which could be a smaller amount initially, and then keep adding on to that later. And now there's these guys that are doing. So Tyler, you're saying get a nicer charge inverter and charge controller up front, and then it's easy to add more PV and storage to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my opinion as well. Is like you spend the money on that charge controller inverter, oversize it in the beginning, and then it's just a lot easier to integrate more stuff into that system. And now they've made these things to where you can actually like connect them together and increase the overall power output. So you can have like one of those 6 kilowatt systems, and then you can connect it to another one to give you like 12 kilowatts of output. They call it paralleling, and they like communicate with each other with all their electronics and everything, and they'll increase that output if you want to expand even more in the future. But yeah, I guess that's what I would say is go with a bigger charge controller inverter up front, and then add more stuff into that as you go. And they've come down quite a bit in price from when I started. I think I started with a system back in 2018, I believe, and I paid probably $5,500 for a charge controller inverter system that can do like all the fancy stuff they do now, which is like kick on a generator if you need it, and kind of smart charge your batteries, and be able to kind of handle a bunch of different stuff. And that was like $5,500 for like a 3 kilowatt output system. And then I think I could max out on the panel input at 3 kilowatts on that system. and that was like 5,500. And now it's like you want to buy something similar to that, and it's probably half the cost, I think, for the whole charge controller inverters thing. So, or more, it might be or more for that, because a friend of my other buddy AJ just got something that was one of those just all-in-one type things where it's you just kind of have it there and you can just plug your panel straight into it, and it's the charge controller, inverter, battery bank, solar generator thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he got one that was like a 4 kilowatt output, and he got that for like 2,500 or something like that. So actually more of an output than the one I have for half the price. So so that's where they're at right now. They've really come down in price. Actually, I think I was talking to some of the guys at Signature Solar, and I think they have like their 6K system with the battery bank, with a battery bank of lithium iron phosphates that go with it, was going to be cheaper than my one inverter. They did the 3,000 watt output.
Wow, so like less than 5,500 for a 6 kilowatt system?
Yeah.
Dang.
I think from
Yeah.
what I remember talking to them, I was surprised, because I was like, wow, that's for
Yeah.
all that. It's
And
like
so that's
less than
including
what I would've paid.
everything you need besides, of course, like the wiring in a cabin in the house, or no?
Besides the panels. So
Oh,
it'd be
besides the
like,
panels, gotcha. So it's got the batteries and the charge controller and the okay, but still, I mean that's still cheap. Now the batteries. How many batteries were? Did you say 6 kilowatt of, or well, I mean not kilowatt of storage? It'd be amp hours, right?
yeah, or you could do calculate it in the total power. What is called kilowatt hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not factored into that cost that I was talking about.
Okay.
Well, for the EG4 systems, I think with their lithium iron phosphate batteries and their charge controller inverter was about that cost for all that. But then you gotta also add in your solar panels. But the solar panels have come way down in price too, and you can often get deals for these for like 27 cents a watt. Is like you could probably get them all day if you're getting used panels. So for instance, we recently picked up some 365 watt panels, and I bought a pallet of them, and I split them up between other guys in our group on a group buy, and 365 watt panels for $100 a piece. So yeah, we got that deal on those for some used panels. So really the panels are like the most minimal part of the purchase for the one of these systems now.
Yeah, I don't know if Tyler hears it, but I think your mic might be a little gurgly.
Oh, really?
I don't know. It may be just my end.
Let me.
But I noticed that Tyler put in the chat that there's some all-in-one systems for, I think he said a little under $1,000, and that's way cheaper than it was even a couple of years ago. Because I remember kind of shopping around at some of those all-in-one kits, and a lot of those all-in-one kits were pretty high. Yeah, the panels deal, and that's something I've been thinking about, because I know that Tyler also put in the chat a minute ago. I don't think we read it, but it came up on the screen, and he was talking about how it's a lot cheaper if you're not tying into the grid. And yeah, there it is. Yeah, and so that's something we wouldn't be doing. And I'm wondering, because if you plan more for like, hey, this place is going to run on solar, there's a lot of stuff you can do with efficiencies and like the way that you're going to use power that I think you can get a lot Sounds like a robot child.
Is it better now, or is it?
Oh,
Still
yeah, it's perfect now. Yep. Oh, but I better be careful making that symbol.
Yeah. No.
Get in trouble. Somebody gonna take that and be like, "Oh, white supremacy." But yeah, the
Well, I was
whole
gonna
thing of
say
like
don't jinx us.
planning. What's that?
I was gonna say don't jinx us.
I know, right?
This sound is working.
But yeah, the whole panels being pretty cheap. I wonder if you could plan everything to where really you were only using power during the day. Which of course you would want some storage for like having lights at night and like maybe TV and some other stuff like that. But those, from what I understand, especially if you're using LEDs, it's a lot of like really low draw on your system. And if you could plan to where like all your big stuff, like, I know we talked about doing the ice machines and stuff, but then even if you've got like a freezer, I wonder if you couldn't turn that bad boy to where it's like on the lowest setting, where it's just as cold as it possibly can be. And if you've got it only running when the, sun's out, when the panels are producing, that you could do a system pretty dang cheap. If you're just, your main thing's the panels. And then like Tyler said, really go big and get the proper charge controller and inverter and all that stuff to make sure that, that stuff's the primo of the batch, and then maybe do just like a smaller battery system and spend as much money as you can on panels just to have it to where like because my thoughts on it were, especially living in the South, it being so muggy and hot during the summer, well, spring, summer, fall, sometimes winter, having it be like, okay, the panels, when they're on and they're producing power, the air conditioning just runs like is, whatever small air conditioning you've got. And then towards the end of the day, have it also run during that peak time, have it run like a dehumidifier inside the house. And then that way at night, theoretically, if your house is insulated well enough and if you're, wise with how you spend stuff, in my mind, now this has not been tested, I haven't seen anybody, you wouldn't need anything during the nighttime. And you could just, hold it out to the next day. But I mean, you need something that is, I'm thinking probably something that's R30 or higher in insulation to be able to really pull that off.
Yeah, you need a really well insulated house to do that. But yes, so Tyler's bringing up the point here. You're only limited by your personal tolerance for discomfort. So if you can handle it getting a little uncomfortable for you, then you can be totally, minimal with your solar power system and all the stuff that you run during the nighttime. But yeah, if you were going to go super minimal, you would want to do that. You would want to schedule everything out for during the day when you have sun, and only use all the stuff that you want to use during the day. And at night, you pretty much have to like say that we have no power. Like, you operate like that and not run any of your, big appliances or anything like that during the nighttime, and just very minimal stuff. And if you can light your house by candlelight, that would be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not one to go to that far. I want to have somewhat of a battery system to be able to have some light, and stuff like that. That's just in my mind, thinking of like, hey, and that's another reason that I mentioned, because if it's a big if, I can get Wi-Fi on board with a lot of stuff, then I think it would be cool to get, like what Tyler said, get the biggest components that you need to be able to upgrade stuff, and then kind of start out with somewhat of a minimum and be like, okay, it turns out that 2 kilowatts is like living hell. Well, you do not want to have that small of a system if you want to be comfortable, and kind of doing the experiment of testing everything, which I'm sure there's I need to just start watching more YouTube on the solar stuff, because I'm sure there's people that's done this. but have it to where it's like, oh well, we just upgraded to 3 kilowatt and it's so much better, and we've got things scheduled like this, that, and the other. And it turns out that if we run the dehumidifier right before we go to bed and the air condition off of the reserves that we've got, we leave a little bit for light or whatever it is, getting to that point to where you can live comfortably. Because that's the thing. I mean, electricity nowadays, people treat it like it's just, rain coming out of the sky constantly. It's just like you just use electricity just all the freaking time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's very sustainable. And I think that with the technologies that we've got now, we could be using energy so much more efficiently. Well, and I mean, if they would let us build more of those smaller nuclear plants, I think they would, we'd probably be a lot better off and power would be a lot cheaper. But, everybody's like,
well,
no, nukes are bad.
Well, and not just that. I come from it from like a be prepared aspect, as well as like just knowing some people that were in the power industry, and like some of the things they talk about, and following some of the people that I follow that have been into that for a while. We had one of the professors that I worked with while I was at UAH was also studying microgrids and the power grid, and the power grid is very fragile that we have, and like a lot of different things can take it out. Just a branch falling on a tree somewhere, and it throws like the power generation plant out of sync or something.
Mm-hmm.
It could cause a pretty big deal if they don't get to it in time. So having a minimal system as a backup, I think, is becoming more popular now that kind of Tyler has seen people call him for a lot of stuff like that. Is like, hey, I want to have like something as a backup, or I'm setting up this system DIY for some kind of backup power. So I think that's where it's at right now. There's a lot fewer people that kind of think like us, where we want to be off grid, and we want to like kind of homestead and stuff like that, or be like totally separated from the grid or whatever, and just have like everything powered on our own kind of system. But just being prepared, I think that's another thing for handling any disasters, or natural disasters that may take out the power, or any other unforeseen event that might take down the power grid, and just being prepared for that. But yeah, I mean, I started off really small. I think I had like basically 600 watts worth of panels, and my goal was to just see if I could run my refrigerator overnight with a small battery bank.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I had like 4 wet cell golf cart batteries that I started off with, and a small inverter. I think it was like a 2000 watt inverter, and a little charge controller that Tyler let me borrow. And I just hooked it up myself and just kind of figured out how that all worked and everything. And then upgraded to like a 3000 watt system shortly after that, because I was like, this is no power at all. This is almost like nothing. Like I it would trip the inverter, because it would die like halfway through the night, like power in the old refrigerator. So
yeah.
You don't realize like how much power everything is really using until you start playing around with it a little bit. But yeah, you can totally like kind of plan it out, put things on timers, like use more efficient lighting and all that kind of stuff. And with these new lithium iron phosphate batteries, they're a lot different than the older lead acid batteries, where
mm-hmm.
you would only get about 20% of usable power out of the full power storage in the batteries, because if you wanted to go beyond that, then you would start degrading the batteries more. Now with
Mm.
these lithium iron phosphate batteries, you can use like 90 something percent of, maybe 95% of the storage capacity in the battery without doing damage to the battery. So you have a lot more usable storage in those batteries. Their upfront cost is higher, but than these wet cell batteries, but they're going to last like 10 times as long. So they're worth that upfront cost, in my opinion, from dealing with these different batteries. If you wanted to go super cheap and just set up something, you can get those wet cell golf cart batteries locally. That's one thing about it, is you can go pick them up from a local battery place. These lithium iron phosphate batteries are being shipped in from China and stuff. So that's the disadvantage to them, but they last much longer.
Heck yeah. No, I think that, yeah, moving towards being more off grid is going to be more and more popular. I've looked at, and we're at 46 minutes, so I'll just kind of leave this as kind of like, on the next episode. Something I'd like for us to talk about. I don't know if you've really looked into them or not. Now, they're kind of pricey from what I've seen, but wood gasifiers for power.
I have
And
looked into them. Yep.
I saw one dude that had one, and it was a pretty bad machine. And I was like, with as much wood as I have, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, holy crap! Like, I'd have basically my own power plant in my backyard. And I mean, you
That's
can
what
burn
it
wood at
is.
night. And so I've thought about, like, once I've calculated everything out, because I think the one I was looking at, if you get it all assembled and just sent to you, you can get the kit to build it, I think, for 7,000. But then if you want it all put together and sent to you, it's like 14. So I mean, that's pricey. But
It's the labor. It's the labor it takes to put one of those together.
Right.
Labor
But
intensive.
I mean, I'm not a welder, so it makes sense for me. And then if you calculate it and you figure out how much power you're going to use, and I mean, if those machines really do last, and you figure in your labor for like feeding it wood and stuff, it may pencil out. I don't think enough people really pencil stuff out. They just kind of, because I mean, like if I just went with my feelings, I'd be like, we need to save up the money and get this right now because I want a good wood gasifier. But at the same time, it's like you really need to look at the ROI on these things. But it looked like a pretty good option. I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough.
I've got a lot to say about that because it's been something that I've been looking at for quite a long time. And I do think that it would basically give you like the ultimate in resilience just for the future episode.
Yeah. You probably need to get some. Well, we all need to get some rest. Thanks for hanging out, Tyler. That was really helpful.
Yeah, awesome.
Greg didn't have to answer all my stupid questions by himself.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks for chilling with us, man. All right, Logan, where can people find you? What's coming up in the future? You got some mushroom workshops that you want to go ahead. You want to promote those right now, or
sure do. We're gonna have due to a lot of complications with me and my associates, as far as just personal stuff and things we got going on this year, we're more than likely only going to have one workshop that is open to the public. It'll be limited probably to about 20 people. It'll be in Birmingham, Alabama. And if you are anywhere in the area and you'd like to go and learn how to inoculate mushrooms, it'll be, I think our date right now is March the 8th, but you'll need to stay in contact on the channel or either with my email at hideawayhomestead@gmail.com. And as far as, we know right now that's going to be the date, and you'll learn about the tools, the cost, the ROI on it. You'll learn stuff about mushrooms, about preparing mushrooms, about how to preserve them, et cetera, and you'll also get to make a mushroom log and take it home. So we really like to make sure that every educational experience also has something physical that you can take with you. You're getting a kind of a twofer for it. So yeah, keep in touch on the channel, or if you're interested in any of that information, like I said, you can email me, or you can find me in the comment sections on YouTube at Hideaway Homestead.
All right. And yeah, guys, the Tinker Tribe, and we'll catch you guys next Sunday for another stream. And other than that, well, I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.